puts Kentucky back on the field, and then Ray Davis, all day Ray. Man, oh man, is Davis doing it up.
This is Tootin taking it to his left, got a seam. Facial Tootin on the move, got some alleys out there. Beep, beep, touchdown.
Back shoulder throw, he's got it. It's Tez Johnson. Johnson, Colin Johnson, touchdown.
Is their defense. Little hole there to the right side, first down and then some. Jeremiah Love, touchdown Notre Dame.
It's Williams in motion, low snap, Melrose stopped. Michigan makes a stand and comes up with a milestone playoff victory.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Week 0 podcast. I just realized, why is this not on your channel this week? I just realized.
Well, yeah, we don't do the simulcasting anymore because we're trying to just drive it to this channel. Otherwise, everybody.
No, I get it. Yeah. I just completely forgot. But anyway, It is just me and Phil here because Ryan and Lucas and Josh couldn't be bothered to show up on time. Phil also showed up late anyway. I've been sitting here for 35 minutes just waiting for everyone to show up. So Phil would have been late anyway to get started on time. But I'm your host, of course, Connor, otherwise known as Top Left Box. Normally, we'd have more people here. Also known as WTF is Virginia Tech. Of course, we got M3, Mr. Phil Mays, Madman.
We're still high. The champion.
Everyone that's here is probably from Ryan's Twitter, and of course, they're all, Notre Dame fans who are hating on Michigan. So the salt, their salty tears feed you right now, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. It's like a Sinzu bean.
I was gonna say it's like an IV drip that you put into your arm, and as you sleep, and you just it feeds.
That's more apropos, especially since we're talking about salty tears and IV drips. Make sure to like and subscribe.
Oh, so Ryan is here. Ryan's here, but he's not doing the show.
Ryan. By the way, DM me the password again to the channel, not the.
You into this?
Yeah,
StreamYard?
To this. Yeah, not the StreamYard, not the StreamYard. To YouTube.
Oh, YouTube. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't even know what we're really talking about, other than the big news. I guess is the Kadyn Proctor thing, which happened out of nowhere, right? Going from Iowa back to Alabama.
Right.
I guess he just realized that, damn, Iowa's offense sucks ass, so I'm just gonna go back to Bama instead. I guess. I don't entirely know what's going on there. I haven't really read too much into it. Yeah. I'm sure maybe you might know a little bit more since you're our resident Big Ten man. Obviously, I'm sure you're having some sessions with Lucas to teach him about the Big Ten, right, to prepare him, right?
So I mean, Lucas somehow and Oregon have entered the Big Ten already on an elevated, level, right? They're already above teams.
There's the man himself.
Here we go. Lucas. They're already above teams like Iowa, by the way.
So he's in Indy to watch the Lakers lose.
He didn't even tell us that he was going to do that.
Yeah, he's just we're gonna do. He didn't even tell us this. We're gonna start the show, and so I'm just waiting for his ass to show up, and he doesn't show up. I'm just.
No.
And then Josh is off enjoying being with his wife, which is a euphemism that I'm not going to go too further into.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So,
but yeah, what I was saying is, Lucas has had the luxury of joining the Big Ten already, in the skybox, right? They are one of the top 3-4 teams.
Oh yeah. I know what you're
top two. Thank you very much.
Top two.
Don. We're not doing that.
No. I'm not talking about just for this season. I'm just talking about.
I would say overall probably we're probably top 4. I don't know if I could. I definitely can't put us above the other state in Michigan.
Right. And right. And whatever. So wherever you want to place them, in the USC whatever. I have Oregon above USC, but I guess historically USC is a great school, but whatever. I don't want to dive too deep into that. But Kadyn Proctor going, here's the crazy part. If you remember when he initially committed out of high school, he committed to Iowa.
Yeah.
And then he flipped to Bama. And obviously, Saban leaves. He enters the transfer portal, commits to Iowa again, and then flips to Bama again. I think obviously you get to Iowa. He's from Iowa. It makes sense for him to like go there initially. But then when you get there and you realize, hey, we're not going to be very good. Maybe the grass isn't greener on the other side. That said, I'm a fan of Iowa. I think they play a brand of football that is antiquated, but they're a good program overall. Kirk Ferentz is a great coach. I stand by that.
You know what happened?
I like to think of Iowa as like the college football version of like the Steelers, the same colors, not
right.
Feels like an AFC team, feels like an AFC North team in college football. That's just gonna it's not gonna always be pretty, at least when they're playing against other teams that are like that. But they'll get their shit done and they'll enforce their will usually.
They can produce O-linemen. But the thing about the Proctor situation is that when he transferred to Iowa to make $100,000, which was given to him that he does not have to give back, and now has transferred it back to Alabama. As a businessman, brilliant. As a person, kind of garbage, I would say, in my opinion. He's not going to give back that money. It was a fundraiser, I believe, to get him to come to Iowa, if I remember correctly. Does not have to give back that money, that $100,000 that he got.
That's like all the money in the state of Iowa.
Yeah, pretty much. That was their NIL budget, was $100,000.
No, there's within the state budget, there's Kadyn Proctor value right there.
Right.
They're like, well, no, we can't. We don't get to put the tar in the cracks of the roads anymore this year because we lost all our money to Kadyn.
No new textbooks.
The rest of the state balance was what was being owed to Brian Friance or whatever his name is if the offense had actually scored 325 points.
Bro.
I loved the mountain that. You remember seeing those tweets of the mountain showing the points?
Right.
That was always funny. I love how Ryan's been the only one that's being involved. He's somehow giving us his own opinions. So, able to give him and be suspended. Oh my god! I mean, sure. Because
be suspended for what?
Now that is like the transfer portal was like it was to make it you could transfer once, but then. I thought originally, like the original rule a few years ago was like if you transferred a second time, you did have to sit out a year. Like if you transferred within a year later or something.
I can't begin to tell you what the rules of the transfer portal or NIL are.
I do think there should be something like that.
I agree.
Maybe if you
didn't they just open another portal window?
There's a spring portal. I think they didn't open it, right? It's just changed the dates or something, right?
I don't know. The dates are so messed up. But what I think it should be is you can transfer once, right? If you transfer either within a year or before the very next season, right?
Right.
Without completing a full year, you have to sit out that next year. Or it's just like once you can't actually do that, like you have to wait. Okay, Ryan's calling us from while he's at a basketball game. Thanks, Ryan.
Fun times. What's up?
Hey, yo.
Okay.
All right.
No, but seriously, I will say this though. If you don't think Proctor should be suspended, I gotta have an answer because
it
ruins college football. It does.
He didn't do anything. He technically didn't do anything wrong. it feels wrong.
He took money from a university and then is going to be able to triple dip.
Okay,
This isn't NFL free agency.
That's not even really his fault. That's the NCAA for not making this like controlling what's going on. Like the NCAA.
So what's going to stop what's going to stop kids in the future from being
right? If I may,
right, what it should be is the rule I just said, where if you transfer once, you can't transfer within another year. You have to wait a full calendar year, which includes the next season. Then, if you want to transfer, so you have to be at the program for at least 2 years. Maybe that.
Or here's the thing. Here's a thought. Maybe Iowa should have protected themselves. There's these things called contracts. They could have done a better job of protecting themselves against this very thing. Now, granted, maybe going forward, other universities will pay attention to this and hopefully do something like protect themselves against this sort of thing.
I feel like they're signing something, obviously, to agree to get the money, right? It's not just like here's just a bag of money for the first day they show up. Thank you very much. No, it's not going to be like that.
What I think happened, because like the Caleb Downs rumors and all that stuff, I think what happened is Alabama, when they lost these kids and they already had committed to other schools, they're like, hey, we really need these kids back. So let's offer them a bag and tamper with these kids that were already tampered with by these other schools. Because there was already like rumors that Caleb Downs got offered a big time bag to transfer back to Alabama from Ohio State. And that he basically was disgruntled with his NIL deal at Ohio State and went back to the administration and said, hey, I want more money. That's not what this is. This isn't like, a negotiation between these kids and universities to be like, I'm only going to play for whoever gives me the biggest bag.
But isn't that exactly that?
It's not the NFL. That's what the NFL is. You guys aren't professional.
No. Here's my thing about the Alabama deal, right? Nick Saban, the greatest college football coach of all time, just retired, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why kids go to Alabama, to play for Nick Saban. When he retired, a lot of these kids transferred right away, like the Downs. Proctor went into the portal right away. They didn't know what was coming into Alabama. Now, Alabama has a very good coaching staff. Kalen DeBoer, who is probably one of the best up-and-coming coaches, probably the best up-and-coming coach in college football. I think that changes a lot of people's minds. Money could be a factor, but if I'm thinking about it from like a very talented player standpoint, right? Alabama's produced more NFL players than any other team in the last 20, 30 years, right?
But it's also funny that Saban directly cited the whole transfer portal culture as a main reason why he felt he didn't want to. Why he didn't want to keep
when
coaching.
We know that Nick Saban was dropping bags for these recruits.
Well, he just didn't want to do that anymore. I also think he was getting I think this young players coach kind of thing was catching up to him. I also think Nick Saban was getting kind of bored.
His way of coaching probably isn't going to work much longer anyway.
Well, hold on, let me ask you this, because Kalen DeBoer is a great coach, right? I think he's a really good offensive mind. But wherever he's gone, his defense has sucked, right? So if I'm Caleb Downs, why would I want to go play for an offensive first coach?
That's so false.
It's not. Look at the statistics of where his defense is ranked.
It's not true. Yeah. Look at the talent that Washington had on their defense last year. Look at their talent. They had one good defensive lineman and they had one good defensive back. The rest of the team was filled with these 2 and 3 stars. They were all terrible. They weren't good. And he still took them to the national title. It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Offensive mind, defensive mind does not matter. He is a fantastic coach. He has 4 or 5 national championships under his belt at the NAIA level. And now, after 1 year, he's gone to the national title. Like Ryan dipped out, but I understand why these kids would want to go back and play for Kalen DeBoer. And it's not like Kalen DeBoer hasn't produced NFL talent either. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Jabbar Muhammad is going to be one of the best corners coming off the board next year after his year at Oregon. You got that defensive lineman. His name always I always forget his name.
Whose father passed away, right?
Yeah, the kid. Yeah, he's extremely good. You got obviously Rome Odunze. That whole receiving core is phenomenal. You got Michael Penix Jr., who he has turned into one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He has proven himself. So Caleb Downs and Kadyn Proctor wanting to go back to Bama to play for that coaching staff, I don't blame them at all.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I do think it sucks for Iowa though. I stand by that, right? It's not great for them. Especially because of the resources that they put into getting Proctor to come back to Iowa only for him to turn around and leave. That said though, like I said, the university did a horrible job here. The university can afford lawyers, they can afford people to draw up a contract that protects them against this very thing. They failed to do that, and they lost out.
Okay. Yeah. Anything else? Well, I guess Lucas is not here at the moment. Is there anything else you guys want to say about this?
No, I have nothing else to say about it. I will say this before we move on to Clemson to the ACC. I think there's a good chance that Downs enters the transfer portal. And there's rumors.
You mean like right now, like before the season?
In the spring portal, yep.
Okay.
And even Judkins, there's rumors of him wanting to return to Ole Miss. So it's not over.
Yeah, now Ohio State fans are like, he just wasn't good enough to play at Ohio State.
Okay.
So funny.
Clemson sues the ACC, who then turns around and sues Clemson back. if I following the story correctly, Clemson's trying to pull the old Florida State, trying to sue their way out of the ACC, and the massive amount of money they would have to pay to get out of the ACC because they're seeing that they want some of that SEC playoff money that they get for the appearance, I guess. So this is this? Well, I guess we were kind of asking this to Florida State, but does this as this goes on more and more? Do you think that this will just further kind of the decline and eventual breakup of the ACC in the coming years? Obviously, I don't think it's gonna happen this year, but
I think this is weird to me. That Clemson is doing this. It's almost like Clemson is doing this to help out little brother in Florida. Because
Florida State?
Yeah, because Clemson has never had to worry about what just took place for Florida State. They've never had to worry about that. If Clemson went undefeated this year, regardless of who they played, because they are a national brand and they have been, they are going to go to the playoff. So I think it's interesting that Clemson is doing this. Honestly, I don't really know what the point of it is for them. Maybe out of fear that that's going to happen to them at some point, but I don't really understand it.
I think like Connor was mentioned, it's more about the money than about Florida State making or not making the playoff. Now, also I have to push back on this because I think if Florida State had Notre Dame on the schedule this year, right, that they would have made the playoff. I do think and by the way, is Clemson more now, granted, over the last 20 years, I will say yes, right? Maybe the last 10 years, 15 years, yes. but overall, they're not a more prestigious program than Florida State. Florida State has 3-4 national championships, right? And that's since like the 90s.
And they each have one within the past. Or they each have won one or more in the past decade.
Right. Clemson won the
Clemson
two,
twice.
and then Florida State won with Jameis Winston. But yeah, so I think that in terms of prestige over the last 20 years, sure, I'll give Clemson the edge. But overall, I'm not sure that they're a better program than Florida State. That said, Florida State did get screwed. We know that. But I think this is really quickly, because I don't want to take too much time. This is more about the money that is being tossed around, right? That us being fans of teams in the Big Ten don't have to worry about this, right? We're getting the bulk of the money along with the SEC. But in the ACC, you know, they make the playoff and it's like, throw them some change. But, you know, that just doesn't seem right. And by the way, they're going to have less teams in it theoretically than the Big Ten or the SEC. So I think it's more about that, more about the perception. If you're a recruit, do you want to go to a school now that is looked at the way that the ACC potentially will be looked at with this thing? Do you want to? They're not going to have the money that the other schools have, right? Just from revenue and from the TV deals and stuff like that. So I think it's more about that than Florida State. I think they could care less if Florida State made that national championship, other than the fact that they would have gotten some money. But yeah.
Yeah, and this is definitely, it's very weird. Now, I don't know, obviously, more likely this, nothing, Clemson's not going to be able to find a way, unfortunately, to get out of this without having to pay the massive penalty they would have to pay. Same with Florida State, which was like $500 million or something.
Right.
Which is, that's how I don't know. I couldn't think of any school, no matter how good of a football program they do have, or any sports program, or even how large, would do that, taking that much money out of their endowments, right? That is an insane amount of money to have to pay as a penalty.
I'd be curious, how much money do you win as a school if you win the national championship?
Well, you get the revenue. That's a good point, actually. That's
so how much? Because if you could give your $500 million, go to the SEC and win 6 games every year and never get that money back. So I understand that, but if you give up that $500 million so that you can get out of this and go to a different conference, and then you win the conference, go to the playoff, win a national championship, could that pay for that?
Well,
would it be enough money to pay?
If you want to think about it for how it's not what they make from the national championship, it's the revenue from the TV deals, right? That's how it's, and then split amongst the teams within the conference.
Yeah, but you gotta make more if you.
No, but I looked at
some
so this is what
cool
so this is what the conference gets, and I guess they would then. It's all just going to be spread out. It's not going to be given to the teams. This is from 2021-2022. Each conference receives $6 million from the college football playoff for each team selected for a semi-final game, and a further $4 million for each team that plays at a non-playoff game playoff bowl game under the college football playoff. So I guess
which is not nearly enough.
Referring to either
you just got to do that,
or that's referring to all the bowl games underneath, all the other bowl games. Which obviously,
next 500 years, you'll have that $500 million paid off.
But that's the other thing is, like, the money. It's whether you because you'd be giving up a massive amount of money in the short term for the belief that you'll even make it up long term within the next 10 years, which I don't think that's going to happen, even with what's happening with the new revenue that we've discussed previously on this show. So, I don't know.
Just ride with it. I mean, you got to think about it. Clemson and Florida State like those two teams are obviously the best teams in the ACC, and they're going to be the best teams in the ACC for probably a while, I would say, as long as they keep the coaching staffs that they have.
Right.
I think Dabo's gonna go the way of Saban though. His method of coaching doesn't fit with NCAA much anymore, I think.
Yeah, you may be right there, but
especially because he's not willing to dip into the portal as much, and that's gonna hurt Clemson.
But you got to think about it. You could win 8 games and win the SEC, the ACC. So, like, is it an easier way to the playoff now because it's an auto bid? I would say so. I wouldn't.
Yeah,
argue.
and the other thing is, well, the thing also though is now once they go to the 14 teams, right, and you have more than likely 2 auto bids for the ACC. That just means it's going to be the 2 teams from the conference championship, more than likely, right? Which also makes the conference championship kind of mean a lot less for that. So, I don't know. But,
I think it matters for seeding. I think seeding definitely matters.
Well, it matters for that, but in the end, it's another banner to hang up, right? But you know what I mean.
Speaking of banners, back to back.
It's funny that you were talking about banners because I saw the Tampa Bay Rays unveil their AL wild card banner today, and I'm just like, damn, that is pathetic, guys.
That's ridiculous.
That's like when
I don't even think we have
No, not
Oregon
even the
probably
Orioles.
Oregon probably doesn't
Orioles
even have a Fiesta Bowl trophy from this last.
I mean, you probably have it. It's just you're not displaying it because it's. I mean, you might be displaying it. Virginia Tech famously for a long time, stupidly had a pedestal in the as you walked into like the athletic center, right, where like all the offices are for the whole athletic program, right, so next to Lane Stadium. As you go in, all of a sudden there's like a big pedestal kind of in the middle. And it just says, like, on the plaque, it's like for when they win a national championship in football or something. Like, that's where the trophy would stand. And
that's just sad,
like
man.
Yeah, fans. Yeah, no, they took it. They got rid of it eventually because like some fans from another team were posting about it, just being like, "Ha ha, motherfuckers, dumbass shit,
motherfucking dumbass shit,
motherfucking bitches."
So let me ask you guys this: is because obviously this affects more than football, and I think nobody really cares about these other sports. There is
That's
like some light.
Lucas is just like, I have no interest in doing the Quack 30 until football season is about to start.
Right.
Yeah, dude.
There is like light interest in basketball for some of these schools, right?
Not for Virginia Tech. I was telling this to Phil, like VT basketball, men's and women's, is just barren now all of a sudden.
Right.
Like they're just this Virginia Tech's just be like, hey, our football team's finally good again. We're gonna take all of our NIL money and put it to them. So good luck with having nickels to try and build some teams with. Good luck, guys.
Right. Which look, I mean, it makes sense. Football makes the money.
Right.
Excuse me. I'm not saying that the other sports should go away, but they don't make money.
Yeah, you're. That's why when our move to the Big Ten, it was a football move, and they didn't give a shit what baseball. They didn't give a shit what basketball had to say. They didn't, lacrosse.
Right.
Like they didn't give a fuck what any of those guys had to say.
And that's gonna be
football
crazy, right? Like, so now because we've only been thinking about this from the football perspective, but Oregon now is a Big Ten basketball school. USC is a Big Ten basketball school now, right? So they're gonna travel to Columbus and vice versa, and you know what I mean? Like that is going to the money needed to travel, across the country now for half your season.
I do like the idea of seeing Oregon playing at Purdue or at Indiana, though. Like those crazy atmospheres they have for basketball.
Yeah.
There.
Oh
like,
man, Indiana's basketball atmosphere is amazing, right? Like,
yeah, same thing. Same thing.
And Purdue, if this was 1988, we might give a shit. I'm just sorry.
Well, I mean, your basketball team.
I didn't give a shit. I didn't give a shit about basketball since 1903 when Oregon won the first ever national championship. That's the only year that I cared.
Wow.
You cared a
I
little
mean,
bit
you guys had a good team this year, and you guys have stars.
Pac-12 tournament.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're the forever champs, by the way. Forever champs.
Right.
We've been hearing that bullshit from Washington for the last fucking forever. So now we get to say we're forever champs.
Meanwhile, Phil, Michigan just threw their basketball program on the sword to take.
We did. It was like that.
that
Thanos thing, meme. Where what did it cost you? And it just cost the basketball.
Cost the basketball program.
Right. But we just hired Dusty May, so there's that.
Yes. But we did have a decent team. I think we have a better coach than we had a team, but it still was like.
I'm still mad that your Oregon team cost me $400 by losing that game.
Oh man, I was upset that night too, man.
They
just ran out of gas. They were tired, bro.
That was gonna be the first ever big
they ran out. We literally 2v7'd them.
Yeah.
It was two. It was 2 against 7.
They were the only ones to score the entire second half, and including overtime, right?
We had 2 points scored by one other guy, and that was it.
Yeah, that's insane.
It's just like, hey, I'm just standing here. Do you want me to do anything? No, fuck you. We're gonna do it ourselves.
And what's remarkable is that Jermaine Couisnard is probably gonna he's gonna be at least in the top 5 of points scored in the tournament.
Yeah,
because he had like 80 points or some stupid shit.
Played.
Was he? Did he have the most over like the first 2 rounds?
It was for at least the Pac-12. It was like 73 or something like that points scored in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was the most points scored in a tournament ever by Pac-12 players.
Right.
Single player.
Who've had like Lou Alcindor and you know what I mean, those kind
and they won championships.
He won national championships.
Tournament was a lot smaller. Imagine if he would have. Oh, dude, if we would have beat Creighton. Oh, okay. I'm so.
He actually cares now for once. He's good. He's getting mad.
I don't know, but okay. I do gotta go, guys. I'm gonna eat some dinner.
Is there anything else that we really need to talk about? Really, I have no idea.
Man, it's over.
That's it. Very short, finally, because we didn't have Ryan to rant for half an hour about Notre Dame somehow. Right. Thank you to all 42 people watching, probably all on Twitter, but we appreciate it. Go like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to grow that, get to 100 or get to 1,000 subs by the end of the year. Once football starts.
The end of tonight. Go sub.
Tonight.
By the end of tonight. Somehow, if we got that, that'd be crazy. But anyway, for Phil, for Lucas, for myself, Connor, and for a very brief visit from Ryan, this has been the Week Zero podcast. We'll be back, 2 weeks, more than likely?
Yep.
I'm just glad we're getting closer and closer to the draft because that's gonna be a lot of fun doing.
And spring ball.
Spring ball. It's gonna be a lot of fun coming up. We're gonna have a lot more to talk about than just 2 things that we don't give a shit about. So have a good night, guys.